So it's Doctor Who week this week. Doctor Who is a sort of show that I watch, but I rarely rewatch episodes. There are a couple I've seen loads, like Blink and The Girl in the Fireplace, but the majority of them I've just seen, and I remember them if they're really good, and a lot of them I just forget about, and then if I catch them on like BBC Three at some random time, I'm like, what the fuck is this episode? I don't really remember how I started watching Doctor Who. I think I watched the first episode when it was first aired, and I think it was probably Kate, my old flatmate, and still now friend, who probably got me into it to start with. I don't really remember. I do remember that I watched it before Sarah did, because she says that the first episode she saw was the "Are You My Mummy" episode, and I definitely watched it before then. I remember Captain Jack arriving. And I remember that first episode, but I don't know, I could have just watched it since then. I always feel a bit of a fraud when I talk about favourite Doctor, because I only have 3 to go by. I haven't watched any old Who stuff. Although growing up, I remember whenever people talked about Doctor Who, the Doctor I pictured, so I guess the most famous before it came back, was Tom Baker with the scarf. But, I mean, that means nothing. I have no idea if I would have liked him or not. I like Peter Davison, just as an actor. As a guy, I think he's cracking, as Sophie would say. When David Tennant left, I thought that no one would be as good as him. But then I absolutely adore Matt Smith's Doctor, and I think he's got the luck of working with Stephen Moffat, who in my opinion is a far superior writer to Russell T Davies. I think that TV shows are better when Russell T Davies creates them and then gives them to someone else, like Queer as Folk US and Doctor Who Moffat era. So yeah, I think that Matt Smith's Doctor, or I think the 11th Doctor, has a lot of the elements of 10 that were really great, but it's just something a bit better. I think he's a bit... I know that the thing is with David Tennant's Doctor is that I think he went from hilarious to really dark. But there were rare episodes when he had both of them bouncing off each other, whereas Matt Smith's Doctor, I think, has a lot of the light and dark in quicker succession. There are a lot of episodes, and I'd say actually most episodes of the 11th Doctor have light and dark from one scene to another. He's laughing one minute and then just does these epic big speeches, which I feel like David Tennant's Doctor didn't really have. He was jokey, and then suddenly there'd be a kind of an episode or arc where he was suddenly really depressed and angry and angsty. And at the time I didn't realise it was lacking the two together, but I think on reflection maybe it was, and maybe that's why I prefer 11 as a Doctor. My favourite companion is Rory. I did a which companion are you quiz just before filming this, and it said Rory, and I was really happy. I was annoyed by Amy, but, you know, if Rory loves her, I guess I had to tolerate her. The one thing I did love that Amy did was that whole speech about when you love someone more for getting to know them. Maybe I'll find the exact quote and put it in the link, because I know that it's somewhere on my Tumblr, because the moment the episode finished I thought, I'm recording this for life on my Tumblr. So I'll find that and put that below just so we can all read it and remember how lovely that was. Apart from Rory, I loved Donna Noble. She was feisty, hilarious, and I think just such an equal, and played off the Doctor so well. Everyone loves Rose, although I feel like because I don't rewatch the episodes enough, I don't remember why we loved Rose so much, which is an awful thing to say and Rachel will kill me for. Clara I'm absolutely loving. I think she's fun and clever and super pretty, which is obviously what matters about people. It's not at all. But I really like her. I think she's a good character. I always like companions who challenge the Doctor, which Rose did straight off the bat. Donna definitely did. In fact, Donna was the female Doctor. That scene where she got the Doctor's intelligence, she was as close as we will, I hope, get to a female Doctor. I don't really want a female Doctor. I just don't think it's necessary. And I'm a feminist, but... Speaking of the new Doctor, I didn't want it to be Peter Capaldi. Pretty much just the moment before he walked out, I said, Sarah, I really don't want it to be him. And then it was, and I guess I'll get used to it. But, I mean, looking back, I was really upset when David Tennant left, but when Matt Smith came in, I know I have written on paper from an article that I wrote for my school newspaper that I was really excited about Matt Smith, and I thought he'd be a really good Doctor and a really interesting Doctor. Peter Capaldi I'm just a little anxious about, and I think he's going to change the direction of the show completely. And I don't even think it's an age thing, because he's not that old. I absolutely love Stephen Moffat's take on the Doctor, and I've had quite a few discussions about this with Rachel, the whole Moffat hate, which I don't get at all. The most ridiculous one I saw on the internet was how people had a go at the fact that he calls all his women, so that all of Russell T Davies's people were women, so it was, or Bad Wolf for Rose, and then the woman who whatever, I don't even remember. See, it was so forgettable. But for Amy, they're really offended that it's the girl who waited. I'm like, but she was a girl. She was a little girl. She waited. She became a big adult human. And Clara's, what, 22? I still consider myself a girl, so I don't think it's that offensive that she's called the impossible girl. I don't think Moffat is anti-women. I don't think he's a terrible human being. I think he does clever episodes and is putting together a much better show than Russell T Davies was, and a much more consistent show. In his first season, the bit in the beginning and the wood that then it came back at the end, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm hoping you know what I mean. That was so clever, and Russell T Davies would not have managed to pull that off. There were so many inconsistencies with Russell T Davies' storylines, and he'd tried to make everything make sense with an explanation that made no sense at the end. He'd be like, oh yeah, I know this whole 40 minutes you just watched didn't make sense, but here's an explanation that doesn't make sense to try and rectify all that. It's like, what are you doing, Russell? So yeah, not a Russell T Davies fan. I'm not saying that I don't think Stephen Moffat has flaws, but every show has flaws, so I'm going to forgive him that. I don't think I have anything else Doctor Who-y to say. My favourite episode is probably Blink, but as I said, I only ever really rewatched Blink and Girl in the Fireplace, and I only rewatched Girl in the Fireplace so much because it was Kate's favourite episode, so I don't know, that's probably it. I'm looking forward to this weekend's episode, and until next week, bye! I don't know what I'm saying. What the fuck am I saying?